Good afternoon, everyone. It's Hanifa Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, I thought that I would share something that has been brought up by various people through time with me, and certainly has been brought up in this mind too. And I wanted to share it with you. It's certainly something that I focus on quite regularly now. And it's this idea of sadhana, which is spiritual practice. But also, I wanted to make sure that you understand about tantric wisdom. So, sadhana, spiritual practice, and tantric wisdom. And so I thought I'd start with this quotation. It's a description of sadhana. It says, sadhana is your daily spiritual practice. You may start by just setting aside some time each day to practice techniques and activities such as meditation, yoga, chanting, and reading sacred literature. However, if you are sincere in your spiritual journey, your whole life will eventually reflect your sadhana. Your whole life will eventually reflect your sadhana. And this is, I find fascinating because we really do start seeing what our sadhana is. Even for myself, this mind body, I do know that I'm drawn to meditation and regular meditation, and knowing that meditation is actually the whole goal of all of these practices. So whether it is reading sacred literature to meditate on that literature, chanting is to meditate on the words that are being said. Meditation, of course, is meditation, and yoga is this, again, union with, or meditating with some divine energy. And all of these involve this union. So which is, I think, fascinating because, again, there's so many different routes to get to the same space, yet the goal is the same, is that union and something flowing through us, which we can, again, many of us know that some divinity is flowing through all of us. And then, of course, I wanted to talk about Tantric Wisdom. Now, why would I connect these two? I thought I'd share this quotation too. It says, sadhana, which is quoted as realization, in Hindu and Buddhist Tantrism, spiritual exercise by which the practitioner evokes a divinity, identifying and absorbing it into himself or herself, the primary form of meditation in the Tantric Buddhism of Tibet. Tantric Buddhism of Tibet. Now, remember, this also included Hinduism. And I will say that oftentimes in most spiritual traditions, so this includes religions, there is this intention of union with some divine energy. So even if it's to ask for help, or it's like, please, have this strength through me, like, let me have that strength that I see in the divinity. So when we think of this idea of realization and this idea of sadhana, meaning that you're evoking a deity to flow through. And I do know that I've actually, not with intention initially, I've had various forms of gods that have come through my awareness, my realization, which I had never studied before, and I learned about after I got these visions and these connections. And very interesting because one can get lost in that too. So I can say, for example, I had a vision involving Lakshmi, goddess Lakshmi, which is a goddess of abundance, we'll say. So abundance is part of Lakshmi. And I know in Bali, there's many temples, Lakshmi temples, that are in every village, every town, every city, and very highly regarded. And then there's, of course, the divinities that are a little bit different, which are a little bit more harsh, I'll say. So we'll say things like Kali might be more about destruction. And I do also know that I met people in Bali, and I am sure that they're all around the world. We're all around the world. Everyone is all around the world. The same thing is everywhere. So this idea of some people will evoke that deity when they're going through something not so good, and they might even be wishing something not so good for another person. And this is really an interesting idea, that whatever we put our mind into, our thoughts, our words, our actions, our creation ends up being our sadhana. So this is sadhana that, again, eventually your whole life will become your sadhana. So if I'm always thinking about, oh, I don't want this person to do better than me, I will find the next person. I don't want this person to do better than me. And that's why is this person? So, that jealousy and greed and anger and frustration, all of those are kind of connected. And when I'm in that space, I might evoke a deity, even if I feel like I can't get anything. So I know I spoke to some person who actually mentioned evoking deities for the birth of a child. And it was interesting to hear about. Again, interesting that we can often think of, oh, God help us get children and get a child when someone really wants a child. But to evoke a deity, which is almost destructive in the energy that it's presenting, and yet super powerful, even when a child is born through that, is that helpful? So when I think of sadhana, this mind at least feels that the intention for goodness, not only for oneself, a selfish goodness, but a selfless goodness, is a wonderful sadhana. And again, that is this mind's perspective. And you can have your perspective and understand what you're doing, whichever way you do it, because it's not only other people that are affected, or ourselves that are affected. So let's say a couple evokes a deity and it's actually linked with a lot of destruction. That destruction doesn't necessarily come right now because, wow, the birth of a child is always so fabulous. But we do know that parenting is not easy. And sometimes children themselves become not so easy for parents to handle. And this is something that one can have a mindful awareness about, that regardless of how desperate a person might feel, even if someone has brought down another person's business and suddenly there's evoking an energy of, I want some destruction to that business because it's destroying mine, it still goes through mine first and then destroys the other if it's that powerful. And oftentimes people have such a passion about this that it's so important because, oh my goodness, I could lose everything. Let's say if we're talking about business, and what if I don't get a child, is also a really passionate spot that people are in that desperate mode. There's also a desperate possibility of uniting with divine energies that are doing good. So there's this calling. I can say that I feel like this mind body is experiencing its calling, yet there is this awareness of an intention that only good happen consciously. Not consciously, there may be something that's not good that happens too, and that recognition is recognizing this duality nature. Now that duality nature is one level. Beyond that is something that views everything as the same. This is good, this is not good, it's just the same, it just is. This is creation, this is maintenance, this is destruction. And again, so you can imagine that when something is created, someone might be affected that's we'll say losing in that situation. So let's say that a new business is created and someone is sharing good information. Let's say, I'm going to use my example. If I'm sharing lots of good information, which this mind feels it is, and of course I've learned from lots of leaders before my time and even current leaders, and yet someone might feel a little jealous, someone might feel a little bit lesser than, someone might start getting into a space of comparison. So there's a little bit of energy that can be created that is not so good. Knowing that this mind's intention is not that helps me feel centered and easy and comfortable. Then I thought that, when people think of Tantrism, a lot of times it's not with a full understanding. So I don't know if some of you might have heard of when Sting, the artist, the singer, that used to talk a lot about tantric sex. And I actually believe that I have experienced this too. And it's a very interesting thing because there was never an intention to. Some people study this and try to perfect how to center themselves, but really union really brings out the best of us in all sorts of ways. But sometimes people might have a particular goal. So again, this intention for a goal of, oh yeah, I want to have the best climaxes. I want to have the most fascinating experience, but I want to be able to make my partner the happiest. Isn't that giving of me? That's not selfish. Or I want to have the best experiences, and that's not selfish too, because I'm living a life. all of that can come up. And yet, when someone really goes into Tantrism, it's about beyond the body. So I came across this description too. It said, and I'll skip part of it just because it's not necessary, but I'll read this part. It says the salient features of Tantrism are the ultimate reality as bipolar, realization as the union of polarities, the pursuit of siddhis, which are special gifts, like special, um, almost like a sixth sense. It's siddhis. It's these different special powers that a person can get. And some of you know my journey and how in that time, yeah, I definitely still get visions of things, which one could see as a special power. Yet I believe that that just is in each of us, and it's whoever focuses on which area. For myself, that was not a focus of interest, but it did come through me, and I'm aware through this mind and body. Um, Predominance of female deities. So remember, I said Lakshmi is a female deity, and then Kali is a female deity. And it says deities of terrifying nature. So remember, I talked about this whole idea of to destroy another, right? This deity. So if I'm invoking something like this is my intention, that it's terrifying to someone else. We don't usually do anything terrifying to ourselves, do we? And there's an emphasis on guru and diksha, and diksha is an initiation. And you might know that even Christianity, Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism, there is this kind of this, you are invoked into joining this. And as you're invoked and you join this, now you must walk this path that we're going to train you in, and this is what you have to do this way. This is not what I do. And so this interesting thing is oftentimes when people go into these sorts of paths, it is for an intention of gaining some power, gaining something, gaining over another. And a lot of people get very fascinated with that idea. This mind is not. This mind is very much about the sadhana of truthfulness, integrity, honesty, compassion, love. And this is another thing that I learned about sadhana very recently. I just thought it was so fitting because some of you know that I also had some training with Eckhart Tolle's work in terms of the power of now. And so many traditions talk about be present, be fully present. And when you're fully present, when we are fully present, we care about what happens to ourselves. So there's compassion flowing from ourselves to ourselves. And we care about what's happening around us too. Even if we have some awareness of, oh, this might hurt someone, and we say, oh, but it doesn't matter because that's not my intention. No, it's the whole wishing well for that. So if you've come to an awareness of, oh my goodness, someone could be hurt in this situation, send some positive energy that way. That's part of our skills and our abilities if we choose to use them. So I read this, which was so fantastic to me. It says, the idea of doing sadhana is to come to a state where you can simply be here. To understand and know that what is here is everywhere, what is not here is nowhere. Getting beyond the need to go somewhere, that is sadhana. Because in fact, there is nowhere to go. There is only here and there is only now. And this is so important because, again, even when people see me traveling to Bali or traveling back to Canada, people think, wow, she's traveling, or she's here, she's there, she's... Yes, I have traveled, even within Ontario. I've traveled in terms of living in a new space and moving to another space or having a particular practice and growing the practice. And so things have changed. Yet, it's never been an intention of because over there I'll be able to do something I'm not able to. Sometimes a bigger space, yes, allows me to provide more service or greater space, or perhaps even have the visual that would lift people's hearts, but the whole intention being to lift people. This idea of there is only here and there is only now, whether I'm here in Oakville or I'm in Bali or I'm in Alberta, I want you to know that this is always here and now, where I am now. So here I am now. I have the same comfort, the same love around me. I have the same love within me. I have the same compassion within me and around me that I had over there or I'll have here. And this is one of the things that we learn through regular practice, the sadhana. So again, this sadhana that comes through this form is often meditation and this union with some divine space, this unknown space, which just is this space in our minds that we can create that just allows things to flow through us. And this is such a beautiful space, and it's very, very uplifting. And it's interesting because a lot of times people think that, oh my goodness, how would I do that? I can't do a meditation all the time. And how long is your meditation? People measure that, oh my goodness, you do half an hour to an hour. I only do 15 minutes. Okay, I'll work up to 1 hour. It's not the length of time that you meditate, it is the intention behind it. The intention behind to let go of the ego in that space is to forget about everything. And this is the space that people are not so comfortable with. That, well, if I don't have anything to think about, then I can't do that. There's always thoughts filtering through my mind. There will be. That's what the mind does. It allows these thoughts to flow through constantly, and it's a matter of not holding on to each thought and to filter, oh, okay, I got to do this, or I got to do that, or I didn't do this, or am I doing this right? All of that comes up in meditation, and to actually just see the thoughts, recognize it's the mind and it's not the soul. It's not the energy that's also seeing all of this. This is a sadhana. And for anyone who's not necessarily practicing meditation, you don't have to. Sadhana is anything that you do from that heart space that you give your all into it, that you just surrender and receive, surrender and receive. So this surrendering space is a space of reception. I might have mentioned that in another video. And I thought it was kind of neat to come across a quotation by Theodore Roosevelt, which I thought was quite fitting too. It says, the one quality which sets man apart from another, the key which lifts one to aspiration, while others are caught up in the mire of mediocrity, is not talent, formal education, not intellectual brightness. It is self-discipline. With self-discipline, all things are possible. Without it, even the simplest goal can seem like the impossible dream. And this is the thing, that the simplest goal is this union and this recognition that we've always got this divine energy within us, and how we choose to use it can be directed by our minds, by our thoughts, our words, our actions, and we can use it in really beautiful ways, or we can deny that we are using something in not such a beautiful way, and then suffer the consequences. Is karma. It's karma. It's definitely an energy that is created that then comes up back to us. Still, there is still this awareness that even from someone who has perhaps created a karma that's not so good, one can start to consciously create karma that's good. And creating karma that's good can start with our individual sadhanas, whatever you choose to do. This idea of sadhana and seva. And seva, if you remember, I have mentioned that, and maybe I only put this as a post, maybe it wasn't a video, but seva is all about selfless service. Now, what is selfless service? Selfless service could be serving food to the homeless. It could be serving food at a mosque, a temple, a gurudwara, anything, a church, a school, a family. And when you give it with the heart of, I expect nothing from this, I do this just from the goodness of my heart, that's a seva. And that's also a sadhana. A sadhana, this is my practice, this is my daily practice. But unless you do it from that space, it's not seva or sadhana, because this intention of something allows me to do this. Because most people will say, well, I did this for you, I cooked for you yesterday, so, and I cooked for you the day before too, and I cook every day. And as soon as we get into that space, we're into ego space. And even if we're doing it at a church or a mosque or anything, if there's that, oh, well, I took this there, so I took this many there, I took so much there, and boy, I never really get a piece of what I bring too. It totally undermines the seva. And even if I'm looking at who's taking how much, and I certainly have done this as a child, and I've watched people take things at a mosque, and I think that, wow, that person took 5, that person took 2, and why are they counting now? As a child, it makes sense. Now, in this form, in this wiser mind, I recognize that each person is doing their own karma. If there is a greed associated somehow, it will come through in every action. If there's a generosity, it will come through in every action. And I certainly know that in my family, there's been a lot of generosity, and certainly my friends have shown a lot of generosity. In this time alone in Oakville, I've seen so much generosity from the friend that's allowing me to stay here, and certainly was never my intention to be here for this much time. And yet, I'm so grateful that I've got a friend who also has divine energy flowing through in this way towards me in this moment. The interesting thing is, I don't have any awareness of any other aspect of his life which may or may not have that energy. In this, I am aware that, wow, that's a really generous space. That's a very giving space. And all I'm taking it for is what is being received and given with kindness and generosity. And I'm also giving from a kind and generous space. And this is what we can all know, that whoever is giving to us, even if it's only a thought, only a word that we share, that's our giving, let it be given. And this is a conscious intention and a conscious sadhana, a conscious seva. And I came across this wonderful image here, which actually says, deepen your sadhana, even you as you expand your seva. Deepen your sadhana, your spiritual practice, even as you expand your seva, which is your selfless service. That selfless service, please do not feel that you have to have money for this, you have to have a big home for this, you have to have whatever. People often think, I need stuff to be able to give. No, the stuff we have is right within us, and this is why it's here and now. We have it right now. Today you have it. I hope that you'll share it. Whether you share it towards this video as you're seeing me share this with you, I am sharing this with you as a seva. I hope that it deepens your own sadhana. I wish you a fantastic day ahead, and I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day, everyone.